So prior to researching my family history, all I knew from my grandmother about her grandmother, Jemima Curry, was that she was born in Virginia and was an enslaved house servant in Arlington. She also had a sister, Elizabeth, that she was separated from, who was enslaved at a neighboring plantation. So I had three clues to go on: the year of her birth, that her maiden name was Curry, and a location of where she lived in early life. I started with Arlington. First, I want to shout out the MEA Project for the fantastic work they have done to chronicle the lives of enslaved people in Arlington, history that was previously excluded or grossly misrepresented. Through their records, as well as a paper by Madison Dorothy Deba and Jessica Kaplan, I learned so much about what life may have been like for Jemima. Most surprisingly, the paper also lists the actual names of some of the enslaved people at the three plantations they researched, and the name Jemima is included only once at Arlington House, and that could be referring to my ancestor. The only other reference is the 1860 U.S. Census slave schedule, where there is a 6-year-old girl listed that could be Jemima. So let's talk about Arlington House. The Arlington estate was built for the family of George Washington Parke Custis by enslaved laborers between 1802 and 1816. It was the largest plantation in the country at that time, spanning over 1,100 acres and enslaved over 235 people, many of whom he inherited from his grandmother. George Washington Parke Custis is the grandson and adopted child of George and Martha Washington, and would later become father-in-law to General Robert E. Lee. Yes, that Robert E. Lee. And now it is the site of the Arlington National Cemetery. When G.W.P. Custis died in 1857, the plantation was then inherited by General Lee. According to an article published in the National Anti-Slavery Standard, many of the enslaved at Arlington House thought they would be freed upon the death of Mr. Custis. However, General Lee conditioned that they were to be enslaved for an additional 5 years after his death. It is said that at this time, and especially after the start of the Civil War, a number of enslaved were sent to plantations in Lower Virginia, away from Union lines and into territory where it would be much more difficult to escape north. Now, this anecdote of moving people deeper into Virginia was of interest to me because it gave a possible explanation of how Jemima may have gotten to Lancaster County, where she is living according to the 1880 census records. And it also leads me into the second clue, the last name Curry. So I hope you'll follow along on the next one as I continue Jemima's story and trace the history on my father's side.